What's going on, kinfolk? Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about my journey moving out after I left Kyle, the divorce process, and my post-divorce journey, where I was mentally and emotionally during the time, and the first relationship that I got into post-divorce. So if you want to hear my story, then keep on watching. Okay, so moving out was really hard, but I was just so grateful that he was out of town at the time. He planned a trip over his birthday to go to California to see a friend that he had only briefly mentioned one time, but he said they lost touch. So when we dated, he told me that he had no close friends. So needless to say, I knew he was lying. And he had alternative motives for going on this trip, which later I found was in fact true. He said he was staying with that friend, but when I made him FaceTime me on his birthday, because I knew he was lying, he told me he was staying at a hotel. He claimed that he was at a restaurant alone or a coffee shop or something, but he went outside to FaceTime me, which to me seemed a little fishy. So I knew right then what it was, and at that point, it was just pointless for me to even get upset. So I just thank God for getting him out of the way so that I could move in peace and take what I wanted without him looking over my shoulder and nagging me about it. How can I fight for a marriage with someone who lies about any and everything? I couldn't work with that. And frankly, I was not going to. I had no idea who this person was. And at that point, I was done. My emotions were really interesting at this stage. There was a combination of a deep sadness and mourning the loss of who I thought my husband was. That person never existed, and that was a really tough pill for me to swallow. But then on the other hand, there was a level of relief, if I'm going to be honest. I was just so full of gratitude to God for speaking to the stranger who was a YouTube subscriber, because if she didn't tell me what she told me, then I would have never had any idea that he was cheating, and I would have blamed myself completely for the demise of our marriage. Even though I was really sad, it was hard for me to wallow when the Lord showed up in the way that he did. I mean, he came through in miraculous ways. Before the crap hit the fan in our marriage, my mom sent me this video about God's law of attraction. This one specifically was about allowing people to be who they truly are. And the whole gist of the law of attraction is just to go with the flow. Tell God what you want and get yourself to the point emotionally where you can trust him enough for what you're asking for that you feel the joy that you would feel if you already had what you asked for. Hopefully that makes sense. I can explain that in another video at another time if you guys are interested. But I was beginning to learn how to become more positive and to attract more positivity in my life. I began reading this book on YouTube. I forgot what it's called, but I will link it down in the description box. And in it, the author talked about affirmations and how to start speaking affirmations. So I began praying this prayer because I kept feeling that maybe I married the wrong person. But I trusted that if he was the wrong person, that the Lord would make it clear and work it out so that I get out of it with no blood on my hands. The prayer that I prayed was, whatever is not in my Father's plan shall be dissolved and dissipated and replaced by the divine plan, my destiny. When we were married, I really started to feel like I was never going to be able to live my dreams in this marriage because he was so negative, and he wasn't a dreamer at all. He felt like me having a dream car or for wanting more out of my life meant that I was ungrateful for what I had. And I believe in Ephesians 3:20. I believe that God is able to do exceedingly, abundantly, above all we could ask or imagine according to his power within us. I believe that God has mind-blowing things for me. So if I can't share those dreams and take steps towards them with my husband, then that made me feel like a prisoner. So I began praying this prayer daily, and literally 2 weeks after that, everything changed. That's when we had the conversation in the kitchen on Super Bowl Sunday. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll put the link here, wherever it is, so that you can go watch the during the marriage video where I explain it all in detail. So after I moved out of our home, initially, I just felt relieved to be out of the house and away from this stranger that I married. I wanted to heal, and because of all the Lord did, I couldn't help but to just be excited about what was next. It was, though, a really, really humbling experience. The first night in my new apartment was really surreal. I was just emotionally very confused, like, what the heck just happened? And how did I get in this situation? I just didn't understand how I allowed myself to be in this type of situation. It wasn't me. I had so many days where I longed to be with the man that I thought I married, and I couldn't believe that I was in this position. About to get a divorce after only 6 months total of marriage, and he cheated on me after only 3 months? How humiliating. I was so humiliated. With everything having been documented on YouTube really made it harder, but I strongly felt that the Lord wanted me to continue to vlog. I got so much backlash for that because people felt that I shouldn't be vlogging and that I shouldn't be on YouTube and I shouldn't be concerned about this, but I'm glad I didn't listen. At this point, with all I'd been through, I now trusted myself, finally. I was not about to let anyone other than God tell me what I should and shouldn't be doing. I was right about every single thing about my ex when I doubted my judgment, and I was shown that I do, in fact, hear the Lord very clearly, and I was not about to let anyone get in the way of what I knew I should be doing. I lost a ton of subscribers, and because I didn't tell everyone what happened, people were blaming me, saying you didn't love him and you probably cheated on him, and all kinds of mean and hateful things. Then, of course, I had all these self-righteous, judgmental Christians telling me how God hates divorce and how I'm not allowed to marry anyone ever again and, whatever else. But I chose to ignore these things because I strongly felt like the Lord was telling me to keep my mouth shut. I knew that he would want me to share my story in order to help others eventually, but as much as my flesh wanted to blast my ex-husband, my spirit truly wanted to heed what the Lord was telling me, so I didn't tell anyone on my channel what happened until the Lord gave me the go-ahead. Now, during this healing process, I really humbled myself before the Lord and asked him to deal with me and deal with my heart. I didn't care if I ever got married again. In fact, at first, I decided that I never wanted to be in a relationship ever again. I didn't think I was angry because I felt so grateful for what I learned in the process and for how God showed up for me in ways I couldn't even have imagined. I knew that there was no other way that I could have learned what I learned. I needed to go through this horrific experience in order to transform me. And for that reason, I don't regret the situation, but I did go through some really painful phases. And I hated my ex-husband for a really long time. I felt like he was Satan's next of kin. And even the things that I heard about him after I left just confirmed how crappy of a person he was. So I didn't see my emotions as anger, I just felt like they were truth. While I knew that this was a very important and transformative experience for me, I also understood all of the ways that I could have done things very differently. And that was important for me too. My season of healing was a very intentional one. The emotions that I experienced were emotions that I had never felt before. I had zero desire to ever be in a relationship ever again, ever in life. I looked at all men like they were lying jerks. The mourning that I experienced was also really intense. I longed to see and talk to the man that I thought I married so badly, and I had the hardest time completely wrapping my head around the fact that that man never existed. One day I would feel amazing, the next day I couldn't stop crying. The number of times that Gail came over and just let me sob on her shoulder, I can't even tell you. I was completely devastated. And then to hear that he sold our house, and in order for them to allow him to sell it, they needed proof that I was okay with it by way of divorce papers. So once it came down to him receiving the money from the sale of the house, he kept nagging and pushing for me to hurry up and sign the papers. Even though I was disgusted by him and I would never stay with him because of the fact that he was already seeing other people, I was not ready to go and sign those papers. It doesn't seem like a big deal, like all you're doing is signing your name, but once you're in that room, in that chair, in front of the notary, the reality of it all really hits you. The shame, the embarrassment, feeling stupid, the fact that I can never again say that I've never been married when I date someone next. I was so proud of the fact that I waited so long, but in that moment, I felt like my ex-husband stole that from me, and I didn't even understand why. Those were the kind of thoughts that I felt during this time as I was signing these papers. In reality, although he lied about so many things and who he pretended to be was not at all who he truly was, I did understand that I wasn't completely innocent either. If I would have listened to my instincts, or what I call the Holy Spirit, then I would have never had to walk down that aisle in the first place. And there were ways when we were married that I could have done better for sure. He was more of an emotionally needy man, which was also a red flag for me at first. But then I thought he was just my best friend and we just loved to be together. He needed to feel needed all the time. And although I did love him very much, I wasn't giving him the kind of swooning attention that he desired. There was just so much tension between us that I didn't even understand. So it was hard for me to give him that. It was hard for me to be ooey gooey with him. He also felt that I made YouTube too much of a priority. But it was something that I told him when we were dating that I wanted to pursue full time. And when the checks came in every month, he got excited. It wasn't an issue until the excitement of the checks wore off. One thing that I will never do is put my passions and my desires aside for anyone. I told him before we got married that this is what I wanted to do. And I gave him the option to not be a part of it. But he was excited about it and he made the choice to be involved. I didn't force him. So towards the end of our relationship, when he started talking to a woman on Instagram, he started to initiate vlogging more and more. So his saying that I made YouTube too much of a priority was not lining up with his actions. I felt like he was trying to find reasons to blame me for everything. During this time also, I went through a phase of feeling really alone. I just had so many questions. While on one hand, I felt so excited about what the Lord had in store for me, I just didn't understand what God wanted from me in this time. I knew the Lord was preparing me for something, but I just had no idea what for. I felt like sharing my story and my journey was going to be a major part of my destiny. But I had so many reservations about sharing my journey because my ex would get angry anytime I even brought it up in a vlog. He somehow got wind of the fact that I said something about the divorce, so then he would watch my channel, and then anytime that I would say anything about it at all, he would text me and tell me how I hurt his feelings and how I need to stop talking about it. It's done, and I don't need to speak about it anymore. But I told him that was not going to happen. This is my story. I'm going to use all of the pains and mistakes from my past to help other people. But he wanted to sweep me under a rug and act like I never happened, just like he did all the others. In this healing time, the Lord gave me so many confirmations as well. People who were involved with Kyle reached out to me and told me things that they went through with him. The lies that he told them, which confirmed to me how much of a liar he is, or hopefully was. I do pray that the Lord has changed him in this time. Because when we spoke about the past relationships, he told me one thing, but then these people told me completely different stories. Even though I found it completely disturbing, but I also found it very comforting, and I found myself even more grateful that the Lord got me out of the situation when he did. I took advantage of this healing time to transform my own thought process. I dug really deep into God's law of attraction so that I could shift my thinking from negative to positive. I really wanted to learn how to not allow negative things to affect me and trust completely that the Lord has my back. I didn't want to have any resistance to any negative things. I didn't want to give anything negative power in my life. I learned how to look at the negative things that happen in my life as learning experiences instead. I believe that everything happens for a reason. And I learned how to stop allowing even the small things like getting stuck in traffic or something simple not going my way or just anything that could be perceived as negative. I learned how to just go with the flow and to accept it without giving it power in my life by focusing on it and feeling negative feelings about it. If you're interested in hearing more about this specifically, give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment. More God's law of attraction, please. And I'll explain it in a little bit more depth because I know it's kind of new agey and a lot of people don't understand it, but I can explain it in a way that makes more sense and shows you that it's really how God wants us to think. Anyway, by the time I got into the first relationship after my marriage, I was divorced for about a year. I was in a much better place, but I was still sorting through a lot of emotions from my marriage, but also emotions from my ex before him. I still had a lot of anger towards him as well. I was so sick of these lying, cheating men who get away with murder and then just jump right into new relationships without having to suffer the consequences of their actions. Obviously, that was just how I felt at the time. I don't believe that people who treat other people badly just move on happily. Everyone's deep underlying issues need to be dealt with before they can have a truly healthy relationship. And that I understand now, but I was really angry then. Now, my first boyfriend post-divorce was truly an amazing guy, and we had a really great relationship. We talked a lot about our pasts, So I talked about my ex-husband and ex-boyfriend quite a bit, but he also spoke about his exes as well, so it wasn't like I was harping on my past all the time. In retrospect though, I can see that I was not in a bad place emotionally when we dated, but I had some things that I needed to work through because the anger wasn't gone yet. There was definitely purpose in that relationship. This relationship was obviously not forever, but it did teach me that not all men are the same. There are men out there who are authentic and who are truly funny and fun and gentlemen, and there is hope for a healthy relationship when the time is right. But I have to say that even though the relationship was a really great one, I was so proud of myself for loving myself first when it came to conflict. When I went to Switzerland to visit my sister for the first time in June of that year, I was really sad to leave my boyfriend, but once I got to Switzerland with my sister, I had the most amazing time ever. And even though I truly did miss him, I was just fine being apart. I mean, I wanted him to be there, but I wasn't crying myself to sleep. And I was proud of myself for that because it showed me that my perspective in that relationship was truly healthy. I have a history of being a bit codependent, but it felt amazing to be free of that. I wanted him, but I didn't need him in order to be happy. And that for me was a huge milestone. Now, when I got back from Switzerland, I think he was unhappy with the fact that I wasn't missing him more. And I could tell that he definitely pulled away a little bit emotionally. And I did too, honestly. I had a really, really, really hard time leaving my sister. I mean, that was the first time in life that I had ever spent that much time with her. It was the first time that I got a chance to know her on the level that I did, since we didn't even know each other existed until 2014. Some of you might be new and have no idea what I'm talking about, but there is a sister Q&A that I will link so that you can watch it and learn more about that long lost sister story, because it's actually really interesting. So there were a lot of emotions to sort through, and I was really sad for a while. I think I was really kind of depressed for like 3 to 4 weeks after I got back. And of course, like, understandably, I think he took that personally, and I completely understand that. I would feel the same way if the roles were reversed, but it got to a point to where I apologized to him, and I told him that I really wanted to have a heart-to-heart about this because I can tell that he's acting differently towards me. I also told him that I understood why, and that he was only responding to how I was when I came back, but I wanted to work through it so that we could get back on track and move forward. His response was, "I'm not acting different, you're acting different." I let it go, but then like 2 weeks later, it really wasn't getting any better. It was actually getting worse. And I was getting more frustrated also. So I brought it up again, and his response again was, "I'm not acting different, you're acting different." And I'm like, I know I acted different, and that you have only been responding to me acting different and how I've been acting since I came back. And I take full responsibility for the fact that it started with me, but you've been responding negatively, and you need to take responsibility for your role in where things are right now. So then he says, "Are you kidding me? You sound like Trump right now. If you want things to get better, then you need to get over whatever your problem is and act like you did before." So I'm like, I mean, this did not sit well with me at all. So I said, "The way you're talking to me right now is not working for me." I had a hard time emotionally when I came back because I'm sorting through all of the emotions of just getting to know the sister I never knew that I had. And I spent 3 weeks with her, and I realized how amazing she is. And not only did I not get to have her in my life growing up, but now I have to live in a whole different country as her. And it's been challenging for me. So then he says, "Shanna, I'm not a hand holder. I'm not gonna coddle you while you play victim." I literally, in that moment, couldn't even believe that he was saying these things to me. I was completely shocked, and I was so disappointed, but I was like, you know what? Okay, thank you. We got off the phone, and I was done. He tried to text me later in the day acting as if nothing happened, but I wasn't gonna play that game. I mean, I was done allowing men to treat me however they felt like. Was this guy a bad guy? Absolutely not. I mean, overall, he was amazing, and I mean amazing. But if this is how he responds in a situation like this, then how is he gonna be when life really gets tough? I'm never gonna be the woman that's gonna be okay with a man only being supportive to her when things are good. If I don't have a man that can love and support me in a godly and loving way, even during tough times, then I don't need a man at all. No, thank you. And I'm definitely not saying this to bash him because he really is such a great guy. In fact, we're still cool to this day. I don't even think he realizes any of this because he wouldn't even have a conversation about it. I tried to have a closure conversation and he just wanted to avoid it, so I let it go. Which is fine. I still respect him and care about him. That was pretty much that. So then, of course, I had to heal from that because I was really angry for a while, naturally. But as time went on, I more and more understood and recognized on another level my worth. I was so proud of myself. I was so proud for not settling for less than what I knew I deserved just for the sake of being in a relationship. My growth was now apparent. It's so easy to say what you will and won't put up with until you're actually in the position to have to put it into action. Normally, I would cave, especially in a situation like that because he really was so great to me. But now, with all that I've gone through, your girl has no more time for games. The truth about people always comes out in subtle ways in situations, just like what I went through with him after returning from my trip to Switzerland. I always say that you find out who people truly are when the rubber meets the road. And him feeling that me feeling what I was feeling was playing victim was him completely disregarding my emotions just because he didn't understand them. Instead of being supportive and loving in that time, he chose to feel offended and treat the situation poorly instead of saying, "Hey, Shanna, you're not being yourself. What's going on? You're not usually like this, so I know something's on your mind." But he said that if I had something I wanted to talk about, then I should have just talked about it with him. So in this situation, even though he was mostly amazing to me, this one situation showed me he was at the time emotionally immature about it, and I had to decide whether that was something I wanted to continue to invest in. Was I willing to just sweep it under a rug? Because in order for us to move forward, that's what I would have had to do. If this is how he responds to conflict, then I was not willing to work it out unless he came around and apologized for how he responded. I took responsibility for where I was wrong, but he never did. So for me, that was the end of that. I'd rather be alone for the rest of my life than be in a relationship with the wrong person. And now I can say that I truly love and believe in myself enough to walk that out. And I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud of that. Now, at this point in my journey, I can truly say that I am completely healed and completely whole. I have never in my entire life experienced this level of emotional and mental freedom. It is the most liberating feeling ever. Now I can say with a pure heart that I truly wish my exes the best. I pray for them regularly. I pray that they are truly happy. Not just surface level happy, but truly happy and changed to the core. If they're in relationships, I pray that they treat these women with the love and the respect that they deserve and that they do not treat them the way that they treated me. No one deserves that. No one deserves that. I even texted Kyle before because I thought I saw him one morning, but I wasn't sure if it was him. He never responded, but for me, it felt amazing that I could even have a soft heart towards him at all. If he would have responded, I would have gone over to his car and genuinely asked how he was doing and talked to him. I mean, I refused to even see him to sign the divorce papers. I made him give them to my ex-stepmother-in-law to give to me because the thought of seeing his face made my blood boil. I did not want to see him at all, didn't want to hear his voice, nothing. So to go from being that angry to feeling a soft heart towards him to the point to where I want him to experience emotional and mental freedom and to be truly happy, even to the point to where I would go up to him and ask how he's doing and actually really mean it, that right there was exactly when I knew that I am healed. And I'm just so grateful for that. So now I want to take all of the lessons that I've learned over my 36 years and do everything that I can to help other women to not go through the same situations that I've had to go through. I want to teach women how to believe in themselves and how to know their worth, to not settle for less than God's best for them, and to not put up with garbage from men just for the sake of being in a relationship. It is just not worth it. I want to teach women how to be happy being alone and being fulfilled as a single woman, because it's only when we are complete being alone that we are truly ready to share our lives with someone. We can't love someone else until we can completely love ourselves. We can't be the best for someone unless we're comfortable being the best for just ourselves alone and not in a relationship. So I believe that it's my responsibility as a woman of God to share my experiences and the wisdom that I've attained in my life to help women learn how to do this and experience life in its fullness. And I pray that you all go on the journey with me. So thank you guys so much for watching and for being so supportive of me. I really appreciate you all, and I'm so excited about this new journey. It's only gonna get better from here. If there are any topics that you want to hear from me about, let me know in the comments, or you can email me at askshannamarieb@gmail.com. I'll see you guys next week for another topic, and I love you all so much. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button to stay updated on new posts. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next video.